rock, 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 rock.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my series where we're making a game similar to the game The Binding of Isaac. The entire project is available for download in the description of the video, like always. And in this video, we're making rock. So before we actually get to making rocks, I changed the bomb completely. No longer rotates. Explosion is different. You can see it through everything. It doesn't blow up barrels yet, I guess. But yeah, anyway, so the rock has this cool shader on it that makes it look cartoon. Okay, so this is the shader that we apply to make like the cartoon effect. I learned this shader from a YouTube video called How to Make a Toon Shader in 2 Minutes. And I think I explained this in the zombie video that we did back in like 2023 when I started this series. So like 600 videos ago, if you scroll all the way up to the very top of the list of like videos or whatever, you can find this cartoon shader. The only difference between mine and the one from Demango on YouTube is I actually rotated mine. So the main light direction, usually this main light direction goes directly into the B of the dot product. But in my case, I rotated it so that way I can change the rotation because I think different rotations look different for different objects. And because these rocks are not moving, they're stationary, I'd rather have the light look a certain way. And so in my scene, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a lantern here and the shadows here. And there's like, I mean, these lanterns, the shadows directly downwards because of it being vertical or whatever. It's kind of going straight down, but I don't know. I just think these look better with like the shadow in the bottom right. Also, I've changed the shades to something very, very small. So then I'll just go through the variables of the rock. So if you change the shades to higher, like this number to higher, that means there's less divisions of the cartoon shader. So if you go to 0.5, there'll be like 2 colors. And 0.4 will probably have like 3 colors. And 0.3 will have more, and progressively more and more. And at 0.1, there's like it's still cartoony, but there's like a delineation between the color. Like there's a lot more shades in between the colors. Yeah, so I'm not going to go through this entire shader, but this is something we covered in a previous video. So if you do want to see the full coverage of like how this shader was made, you could go through like that previous video about making a zombie. All right, so the only other notable thing on the rocks is probably the outline script. So this is a script that is just an asset that I got from a Unity asset store. It's called Quick Outline, and it makes everything look significantly better, especially in like a cartoony type game. You can see the outline on the rocks. It's very visible here. I mean, it doesn't really add a lot to the barrels or stuff like that because the colors are so close together. But on the rock, I think this really adds a lot. There's also like an explosion script. We're going to probably do that after we actually make the rocks. So if you put if you put a bomb there, you can see that like they blow up into pieces. So that's also part of the what we're going to be doing. So you have to model like different pieces of the rocks so that they can blow up into pieces. But anyway, so now, all right, so here we are in Blender, and you can just delete all the objects that are there. Blender is free, by the way. If you've been following the series, you should have already probably installed Blender. But anyway, so if you go to the preferences menu, there's a get extensions tab. It's called something else in the older version. So this is only applicable to this version 4.3.2 and maybe newer versions, who knows. But you can see that I've added extra mesh objects. Extra mesh objects actually has an option that generates rocks. So if you press Shift A, you can click mesh. And then there's under extras, these are all the extra objects that you can add with this add-on. And one of the options is rock generator. After you've generated the rock, just change this number to like 10. This might lag your computer, so at the bottom there's a detail, viewport, and render. Just turn these both down to 1. We don't really need that much detail for the rocks. They need to be very low poly because if you put a lot of them into the game, it could make your game lag, and also it just doesn't need to have like a lot of details. They're more realistic to begin with. By making them less poly, they're less realistic. We do want to change the scale, so just make the scale on the Y maybe like 1.5. You can just make them matching, so 1.5, and then the Z scale can also be, no, Z is the height, I guess. Oh, okay, so just do the whole thing over. So go to the rock generator. Make sure you don't press Control Z because for some reason Control Z doesn't work inside the generator. Any of these settings that you're editing, if you press Control Z, it doesn't actually work. So we just want to make them a little bit wider. Oh, we didn't want to move Z. That's what the problem was. So just change that back to 1. It's actually the Y. We want to make them wider. We don't want to make them taller. You know, like 1.7-ish is probably cool. So then we want to press 7 on your keyboard to get a top view, and we're going to move these rocks away from each other. And we're not going to be making 10 of them, okay? Oh, you can make as many as you want. We're just going to be doing one. I did 4 of them. But what you want to do is the reason we made 10 is that there could be a lot of them that you don't actually want to use. Like this one, for example. This is kind of like flat on the bottom. If you just picture this in the game, it's not gonna look good. So yeah, so if you look at these, they're rounded and they block the area. And them blocking is a big factor. They have to block the player because you're going to be using the rocks to block the player from getting certain things. And then there's going to be things like flying and jumping. You can get over the rocks or you can blow up the rocks, or they're going to be an obstacle. That's the point. And so if you look at some of these rocks, like this one is like kind of, it looks like it would fall over to the left. We don't want any of them ones that kind of look bad. So I'm going to delete all the ones that I don't like from this pile. And I'm going to keep the one that I like. So I think that all of these are garbage, except for this one. This is going to be the one that I keep. So if you take it, move it in object mode, and you could just put it like above the origin. All right, so the next thing we want to do is if you go to the modifier tab, it's using a lot of modifiers to generate this. We want to apply all of these modifiers at the same time. So if you right click this, you can click convert to mesh, and that will do that. And if you go to the material tab, we just want to click new, and we could just call this rock material. We're not going to be creating a material in here. We're using the cartoon shader. So the cartoon shader in the other one is what applies that. And I don't think we need to do UVs. It should just do that by default. So we need to make a copy of this. So let's press F2 and we'll just rename it to rock. And we're going to press Shift D and X to move the copy over. And we're going to take our initial rock and hide it. And then in this rock, actually, we'll just move it back to the start spot or whatever. And we want to cut this into pieces. So we're going to rename this to cut rock. And so if you go into edit mode, you can press 7 on your keyboard to get a top view. And if you go to edge, you can click, mesh, you can click bisect, and you can use the bisect tool to cut this in half. After you've done that, you can use select loops, select the loop inner region. This will select the left half of this, and then you can press Y, which will cut it away from the other side, and then you can press G and X to move it away a little bit. And then press 7 again to get a top view again, and press A to select everything. Click mesh and click bisect, and you can drag another cut through this. You can cut it as many times as you want. The more pieces you make, the cooler it will look when it blows up into pieces. So then you just do the same thing where you click mesh, not mesh, select loops, loop inner region. And just press Y again, and we'll press G and X to move these over here. After you've done this, you need to fill in the face here so they're not just like broken like this. So make sure you're in vertice select the top vertice and the bottom one on the corner, and you can press F to fill it. And then if you press Alt and select one of these lines, you can select all of the vertices on this side and click F to fill it. And then we just want to go around and fill everything so that there's not like holes at the sides anymore. Okay, cool. So now we have a rock that's split into 4 pieces called cut rock. We want to press tab again and press 7 on your keyboard. And you can press L on the individual island. So select nothing and then press L to select this separated thing. After you separate it with Y, you can select them as different objects within the mesh. We'll click P and click selection to move this. So we're just basically separating this into 4 separate objects. And so then we want to do this for all of them. So, oops. Okay, and don't do it for the last one. So now we have 4 cut rocks instead of 1. And you could call this rock P1, rock P2, rock P3, rock P4. Okay, so remember we drag these like this. So just press G and X to move them back over so that they're aligned. And then you can select these 2 and move them over. And since we've been doing this in object mode, in edit mode, you can see where all of the origins are in the wrong spot. So if you right click, you can set the origin to the geometry. And if you want, what I would recommend, I'm not going to do this because I just showed you how to cut it. I would recommend cutting this vertically too, so that there's more pieces of the rock so that it doesn't break into 4 vertical pieces. This is our final rock product. And just make sure it has the material on it as well. And so we're going to turn back on the regular rock, and we'll take these 4 parts, move them in object mode so that they're like just right next to each other. And then we want to export both of them. So if you go File, export FBX. I'm going to put this into a folder, call this rock tutorial. And, my documents is fine. So we'll just put it here, export. And then so inside of Unity, let's create another folder called rock tutorial. Okay, so let's drag the rock tutorial into the scene. Now there's 2 parts to the rock tutorial. And so we want to hide these 4 objects for right now. So let's turn them off. Actually, let's just fully delete them because it's 4 pieces of the rock. And so we'll take this rock tutorial and we'll make it significantly bigger so we can see it. So this is exactly how I made the other ones. And then we'll take the rock material, which is our cartoon shader that I showed you at the beginning. And let me just find it. Hang on. And we'll drag that onto the rock. And then we need to put the outline script on this as well. So if we go here, we can add the outline script like this. The outline script is defaulting. The alpha is 0 by default. I don't know what I did to make that happen. Change the outline to only outline when visible. So you don't want to be able to see the outline of the rock when you're like through the wall or whatever. And because the poly count on my rock that I just made is way lower than the ones that I've already made, you can see that this rock has less polygons, so there's more cuts. So there's 2 ways to get around this. You can create more geometry inside of Blender. So what you could do is you could add a subdivision surface onto this. And if you don't want it to smooth the edges like it's done here, you could change it to simple from Catmull Clark. Catmull Clark is what makes the edges get smoother when you subdivide it. So you could move it to simple and then you could add as much geometry as you want. Again, we're not going to be doing that right now, but if you wanted to have more like what I have where there's more lines, you need more geometry to do that because that's the way that the shader is working essentially. And then we've added the box collider. So let's see. Yeah, so that defaulted to the right size. And then we added a nav mesh obstacle as well, because we're going to be blocking the enemies with this as well. If you don't make this a nav mesh obstacle, the enemies will try to walk through it. And if it has a box collider, they'll get stuck. Make sure you turn carve on. You want to add the nav mesh obstacle after the box collider because it will mirror the size of the box collider. So if you do it in the other order, it won't work. And then the last thing we need to add to this is the rock explosion script. So I think that's here. Yeah, rock script. And then we need to create a prefab out of the rock explosion. So let me find the rock again. So if we take these 4 objects, so let me see, what size did I make it? 901. So we need to take these 4 and put them into their own game object. So let's do exploding rock. And we'll take these 4 and put them in here. And then we're going to delete the second rock tutorial that we have. And we need to make these 901 in size. And I think we could just do that here. So let's lock this and just make that 9 so that they're almost exactly matching. Let's move this on the x-axis and just see where it is. Let's set it to 0, 0, 0. And where is this? Am I missing something? I'm confused. What? Oh, so each of these parts is, I see. Why are these parts so far moved? Oh man. Okay, hang on. This is what we need to do. Put this in here. So these are only 1 away. And then we will delete the rock. We'll call this exploding rock. And we'll make it 9 in size. And then we need to apply the material as well. So if you click on each of the rocks, you can find the rock material. And we need it to be the same material. So just let's click this and then we'll click on this one. And then these 4 can get this material. And then we can add the outline script to them as well. So we want the pieces that blow up to be outlined as well. And if you're doing this while the game is running, you're going to have to redo it. I'm just doing an example. So make sure you're doing this in the scene mode or sorry, the not the play mode. If you do this in play mode, it's going to disappear. Actually, we're going to make a prefab out of it anyway. So what we're going to do is we'll take this whole exploding rock and put it here. And before you do that, actually, these have to have colliders as well. So select all of the rocks and add a box collider. It doesn't have, you could use a mesh collider if you want to. They're just going to go flying and disappear anyway. And then you also need a rigid body so that they can fall, which you can see that they just did. And so then we'll drag these into the thing. Again, you want to be doing this in, you want to be doing this in the non-game mode, because now these are going to be saved with the transform, like the rotation is wrong. So they're going to be saved like that. So if you put this exploding rock back into the game, you can see that it's wrong. So anyway, so then this rock can get this exploding rock into this. And let me just make sure that, oh, the outline script adds that in real time. Crap, create this, and then we'll close this, and then we'll put both of these into the scene. So this one, it's because we have the outline script, but we've added the outline in real time. So these two materials that are here need to get removed. And the same with the exploding rock. If you do this while you're not playing the game, it will work properly. It's only not working properly because we added these materials, like the outline material got added while it was running. Also, this should not be like this, but anyway, we don't have time, so we're just going to leave it like that. So let's drag these prefabs back over top of these ones. And then, so let's get rid of this exploding rock. And then this rock tutorial. So this is the script that does this. So I'm going to show you. So inside of the script, we don't have like a start method or an update method or anything like that. We just have this exploding rocks game object, and then we have a method called blow up. And so inside of our bomb script, which we made in great detail in a previous video, we're calling this when the bomb blows up. So when the bomb blows up, which is right here, there's an overlap sphere that happens at the bomb's location. And if one of the colliders that's inside of the radius around where the bomb is the rock script, then it will run this blow up method. The blow up method instantiates exploding rocks at the location of the rock, which is what's appearing. And then it finds all the rigid bodies inside of the exploding rock, because it's like it's a game object that has several sub game objects. So this finds all of the rigid bodies inside of the children of the game object. And then it creates a random sphere around the rock. It randoms a direction around the rock, and then it shoots the rock in that direction using add force with the impulse. And it goes at a random speed from 155 to 600. And then after the rock pieces go flying, they disappear randomly between 1 and 3 seconds. So the reason we added a decimal is if you don't do that, it will random only in whole numbers. So it would do like 1, 2, or 3, but we want to have the decimals be random as well. So by making it a float, you could also just put 1F and 3F. That would do it as well. But if you don't, it will default to an integer. And if it's an integer, it will just be a number like 0, 1, 2, etc. And we want it to be random. And then after 4 seconds, it deletes the original rock. It deletes the pieces of the rocks. So, oh yeah, because the main game object will still be there because it's all of these objects, all of the pieces are going to be deleted already, but that main game object has to get deleted, and then this game object will get deleted. So let's see if this works. So let's press play. And yeah, so there it is, and we can't walk through it. And if we put the bomb beside it, it blows up into pieces. So that's going to be it for the day. Also, we're getting this message at the bottom saying that we're not allowed to edit the mesh. This is to do with the nav mesh. If you are using an object as a nav mesh obstacle, you have to turn on read write inside of the settings of the model. Anyway, yeah, like I was saying, that's going to be it for the day. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And if you did, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And like I said at the beginning, the entire project is available for download for free in the description of the video. It's just a Dropbox link. It's not like a Patreon or anything like that. You don't have to sign up. You could just click it and download it. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye.